When we picture war, we usually think about shifting borders or troop movements. But this map shows the reality unfolding beneath those headlines. Roughly 1 in 5 children globally live in a conflict zone. This is a global crisis of childhood itself, occurring far beyond the boundaries of any single localized tragedy. The physical devastation is visceral. The rising casualties, the unexploded ordnance, the collapsed hospitals. But the most severe damage is often internal. Persistent exposure to violence induces toxic stress, a biological state that changes the way a child's brain develops. A sudden airstrike that separates a child from a parent, or turns a school to rubble, does more than cause fear. It destroys the child's core safety network, the foundation required for a healthy mind. The loss of a guardian or a classroom represents the total, catastrophic failure of a child's survival system. Our perception of children in conflict has a dark history. During World War II, youth were frequently utilized as patriotic assets. As the Cold War escalated into proxy conflicts across Africa and Southeast Asia, children became ideological tools, conscripted as porters and active combatants. Global consciousness pivoted in the 1990s. Spurred by the 1989 UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and the seminal 1996 report authored by Graça Machel, we began viewing children as vulnerable victims who suffer most from the indirect impacts of war. Today, organizations like UNICEF are tracking a regression. The deliberate targeting of civilians and the destruction of sanctuaries are increasingly treated as tactical norms. On the modern battlefield, child suffering is being normalized. We spent decades drafting laws to protect children as victims, yet modern warfare is rapidly reverting to treating them as deliberate targets. In response to these atrocities, international frameworks established the 6 grave violations. These are strict boundaries drawn against recruitment, abduction, sexual violence, and attacks on schools and hospitals. Enforcing those boundaries is difficult. There are currently an estimated 300,000 children active in armed groups globally, most of them coerced into service. International law views these children as victims. However, when these children commit atrocities themselves, it creates a fierce debate. How do we reconcile the demand for justice from their victims with the reality of the child's recruitment? Humanitarian workers face a parallel struggle. It's known as the silence versus access dilemma. Reporting war crimes publicly can lead to an agency being expelled from the country, cutting off life-saving access to the very children they are trying to protect. International frameworks are struggling because they force aid workers and lawmakers into these paralyzing ethical traps. The primary mechanism for accountability is the UN Secretary-General's annual list of shame, an official record of states and groups committing these violations. Geopolitical maneuvering and diplomatic pressure frequently transform this document into a theater of negotiation. This was evident when the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen was temporarily delisted. Under lobbying, powerful entities can disappear from accountability metrics, even while the conflict continues. Because traditional political mechanisms are gridlocked by powerful states, protection models are emerging from unexpected places. While the political process remains completely stalled, modern technology is stepping in to rebuild survival systems in real time. Applications like Primero use artificial intelligence to manage case files and reunite separated families across fractured landscapes, moving faster than manual tracking ever could. In areas where schools have vanished, AI-powered tablets from the Can't Wait to Learn initiative sustain education in locations without internet or cellular service. Medical professionals are even using virtual reality to construct digital safe spaces, allowing them to treat traumatized minds suffering from severe PTSD when physical clinics are unavailable. Geopolitical systems are failing to provide safety, but these localized technological interventions are successfully repairing the systems children need to survive. Policy is also shifting to embrace survivor agency. We are moving away from the decisions of distant bureaucrats to the direct experience of those who lived through conflict. The Nairobi process is a breakthrough example, inviting former child soldiers to shape the policies that govern their own reintegration into society. There is a growing legal consensus as well. The Safe Schools Declaration, which mandates that classrooms remain sanctuaries rather than military barracks, is now endorsed by 123 states. The upcoming 2026 UN World Summit on Child Protection will serve as the testing ground to see if these emerging laws and technologies will finally establish rules that hold. We have engineered the technology, the historical understanding, and the laws required to shield children from the ravages of conflict. What remains to be seen is whether we possess the collective human will to use them.